Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look yet again at the best Pokemon to build for 2026 for the Great League. This is part 2. I already did part 1, which is going to be linked at the end card of this video as well if you haven't seen it yet. But you requested a lot of times in the comment section to do another part of this. So today we're going to take a look again at some Pokemon that you really want to build for 2026. Those are Pokemon that I assume are not going to get nerfed anytime soon. Or even if they're going to get nerfed, they're going to be absolutely still strong for you to play in the GO Battle League. And it's Pokemon that you really should have, just even for team building, for limited matters, for everything. So today we have 10 Pokemon here again that I would recommend you to invest in for the upcoming season especially. But of course, we're going to get used towards that very soon as well. But of course, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, feel free to subscribe, as we're going to start in directly with Pokemon number 1. We're just going to be the Unnovan Stunfisk. The Galarian Stunfisk was actually a meta staple for ages and then got nerfed quite significantly. I can't really see this happening with this Pokemon. Why? Because we're going to have here a Thunder Shock as a fast move, we have the Mud Bomb as a charge move, and we have Discharge as a charge move. None of those are broken by any kind of means. The Stunfisk itself isn't directly broken, it is a very good in the meta though. It's ranked number 8 currently on PvPoke, and for good reasons, because the type itself is very unique in what it can do. Ground and Electric isn't directly type-wise the strongest move, the strongest types, but it's going to cover at least the weakness of Water type Pokemon, which is quite common of the ground typing of Stunfisk, which is kinda cool. What you see as well is you have overall amazing stats with 2200 overall ranking. This is really strong for a Pokemon. It's actually quite cheap to build as well, because you only need it at level 27, which is very cheap generally. It's bulky, it is spammy, and it is honestly worth it for a lot of kind of different metas as well. But as you can see here, the moveset itself, it's very limited currently, but I can't see that Discharge or Mud Bomb gets nerfed by any means. I could see Discharge getting buffed, by the way, in the future, because currently it's just the worst move compared to even Mud Bomb here. But right now, the best fast move here for this Pokemon is absolutely Thunder Shock, which has the better energy per turns compared to the Mud Shot. But yeah, this is going to be a Pokemon that is very spammy, that is going to be very reliable, that is going to have great matchups against especially the flying type Pokemon of the current meta, the Bastions of the current meta, and it's very neutral. And there is going to be the type matchups. Generally, of course, electric types you triple resist, which is kind of nice as well, but they're not that many. But especially against flying type and steel type Pokemon, you're going to be very good against, which is quite commonly right now, as well as like something like a rock type Pokemon. But then the weaknesses grass is basically non-existent. The only real issue here is kind of ground, and like water again you cover offensively, so it's not the worst. It's only ground type Pokemon that are difficult for you to hit. In theory, you would have Muddy Water, but Muddy Water would need to get a significant buff in order to be relevant in any kind of way, which I would like to see, because it's a very good move in the main series games. But if you want to play this Pokemon, here are some Pokemon you can kind of combine it with. What I like to do with this thing itself is to use Corviknight as my safe stop, this Pokemon in my lead, and then something like a Primeape and Annihilate in the back as a closer. Jellicent works out quite well as well, but yeah, basically one of those. As you can kind of, for example, for Primeape, you can cover up the weakness of the flying type Pokemon that Primeape usually would have. And so Stunfisk itself is an amazing Pokemon. I would really recommend you to give it a try. And let's move on to the next one, where we're going to have Lickilicky. I can't see this Pokemon being nerfed. This Pokemon just got buffed this season with Shadow Ball being stronger. This Pokemon just showed a dominant performance in the EUIC as well. It is very strong in the main meta as well, in the Open Great League, but it's especially good for any kind of limited meta. This is a must-have for limited metas. It's such a strong Pokemon there. A Rollout got nerfed only a few seasons back, but it's now in this Pokemon also for the energy generation. Body Slam got kind of rebalanced only recently as well, so I can't see that this is going to get changed anytime soon either. And then you actually have here very good bulk, very good dynamic gameplay with this Pokemon, but you have also great coverage still, because what you have here is not only Shadow Ball, you're also going to have access to Earthquake. Recently, people are running Hyper Beam on it on the limited EUIC meta just to nuke opponents in the GO Battle League, which is kind of fun. And then you have Solar Beam as well, which can give you a nuke potential, but it's mainly going to be, of course, the Earthquake, Shadow Ball, also, as well as, of course, mainly the Body Slam. Body Slam is a legacy move, but I can't see Lickilicky disappearing anytime soon. There would need to be a massive fighting type update. The fighting types are everywhere, but generally speaking, Lickilicky I think is kind of a safe Pokemon. It has only, of course, one weakness and one resistance, but it's a double resistance, which is kind of nice against ghost types. And here's some Pokemon that you can play it with. You can play it with any Pokemon. Like, it really doesn't matter. I like the core of Annihilate, but with this Pokemon, like, you can play something like Annihilate, Lickilicky, and Bastion in the back that would allow you to have a very strong team. Dusknoir is here to stay as well. I have Dusknoir in over Pokemon like, for example, the Annihilate. Annihilate is not going to be in this video, even though both of them are kind of very similar in some kind of sense. What I mean with this is, yeah, Dusknoir is going to be one of those few Pokemon that have the perfect coverage. What I mean with this is, there's not really a Pokemon that can resist both Ghost as well as Fighting. And as you're going to see as well here, we're going to have very good matchups in January against the meta. We are at number 13, and while I can see that Astonish as a fast move is maybe getting nerfed eventually, because look at the damage per turn, it's kind of crazy. You still have Hex as an alternative, which works out super well for this Pokemon as well, where people even run this sometimes. And then you have access to Dynamic Punch and Shadow Punch, which is just crazy coverage. Why is the crazy coverage is mainly because of what we can see here right now. We're going to have the weaknesses of this type. The weaknesses are Dark and Ghost. And yeah, basically normal types you cannot hit with this type as well. But Dark and Ghost you can hit with other Ghosts, like with your own Ghost type moves basically. Dark type Pokemon you can hit with a Dynamic Punch, and normal type Pokemon, which you resist the fast moves, but they resist your moves. You can also hit for super effective for the Dynamic Punch. So basically, there's no real type combination that allows them to both resist Dynamic Punch as well as Shadow Punch. And that is where this Pokemon really excelled. There's only one Pokemon that can do that, which is the Syrian Zoroark, which is super frail and doesn't really matter towards it. And this is why also Annihilate and Primeape is really good. But I like this Pokemon a lot. I like to pair this Pokemon a lot with also kind of like a Steel type in the back, because what you have to kind of be worried about in the Open Great League is Wigglytuff, which can be a bit of a pain. While yes, your Dynamic Punch is going to be neutral, your fast moves are going to be resisted, your main charge move is going to be resisted, which can be a bit of a pain. Malamar is going to be next. This was here between Malamar and Pangoro for me, because they do very similar things. They're both kind of fighting dark types, what I mean with that. You're going to have here Superpower Foul Play. Of course, you would have the Night Slash as well as Close Combat on the Pangoro. And here the fast move of Psywave is going to have more pressure than the Pangoro's fast move, in my opinion. But generally speaking, Malamar is great in both Shadow as well as Non-Shadow. Here the Non-Shadow is actually ranked higher than the Shadow version. Personally, I like the Shadow version more. And it's all because like the recent Psywave and Foul Play update. The Foul Play update really helped this Pokemon because they have a nice stab move. Superpowers, by the way, if you can only get to one charge move, is still the strongest move on this Pokemon by far. And even if you're going to, if the fast move get nerfed somehow, Psywave, which I cannot see happening at all, you still have Peck, you still have Psycho Cut, you still have options there. This Pokemon is never gonna go anywhere in my opinion. The type itself is actually kind of funny. I only realized now while researching that this is only going to have one singular resistance in Psychic types, and you have a quadruple weakness here with the Bug typing there, or like a double weakness. There's also a weakness to Fairy type Pokemon, and this is why I basically like the Psywave so much on a Shadow version of Malamar, because against opponents that are Fairy type, you're still going to do some nice neutral damage against them, which you wouldn't do with the charge moveset of this Pokemon with the Superpower as well as the Foul Play. So I like the Shadow one because it's a little bit more safer, neutral. And here's some Pokemon that you can pair it with. It's very nice as well together with Bastion again. You can use it as well with your tough lead and then use it as a save swap, because you're going to be able to counter both Steel as well as the Poison type Pokemon that Wigglytuff doesn't want to face. And so this is going to be a fantastic Pokemon to have for the current meta and also for the upcoming metas for sure. Can't see that this Pokemon is going to go anywhere. Yeah, this is only in really because I've been asked to. Like, I've been asked in the comment section on the last video about Furret. I do think that this Pokemon is alright, and the main reason why I put this in here right now, it's number 2 currently in the meta. It's absolutely worth it currently to build. I can't see it getting nerfed directly anywhere soonish, but what I have to say here towards this Pokemon is that it's all kind of mainly down to Sucker Punch, I would say. Sucker Punch is really important for this thing, and if Sucker Punch gets nerfed, which you saw already with Counter, which was basically what Sucker Punch is nowadays, it could definitely get a damage reduction, but currently it's such a nice neutral pick. But even if Sucker Punch gets kind of nerfed, what we see with this Pokemon is you still have Quick Attack as a fast move, which is worse than Sucker Punch, generally speaking, I would say, but it's actually generating energy faster, which is kind of cool. You still have Swift, you still have Trailblaze, and you have now Brick Break, which got buffed as well, which you saw especially recently having a lot of potential. So I do think that Furret is here to stay as well still. I could see though in the future that Sucker Punch gets nerfed, but at the end of the day, you have a Pokemon that needs 10k for the secondary charge move. It's a bit more expensive in terms of level that you need on it, but it's again a Pokemon that you can pair with nearly everything, and it's kind of important to have. Azumarill together with this Pokemon makes a lot of sense. Azumarill can counter the Fighting type Pokemon, which are not really that common anyway, and then you have Furret as you say so, but Furret kind of goes with everything, especially with Trailblaze and great coverage for the current meta as well. And we can move on to the next one. I don't know why I haven't had Empoleon on the last time. I can't see this Pokemon getting nerfed. Like, yes, Hydro Cannon could get nerfed in the future, but I can't see that. Drill Peck only got buffed now. I can't see that Empoleon is going to go anywhere. And that was definitely something I missed on the first video, which you kind of have to talk about. Like, this Pokemon is so worth it. And you don't need a Shadow Pokemon. The non-Shadow is actually kind of better. But, like, this thing has crazy pacing. It is fantastic in the core with Altaria, literally a perfect core to have together. And then if we're going to take a look at the moveset here as well, you have actually 4 different fast moves, where I think 2 of them kind of got added only later on. But we see here that Metal Sound is definitely the best move to go for. We have Metal Claw below it, which is just the same, but with a worse energy generation. You have a Waterfall, which is having way better fast move damage, but has way less energy generation. And then we have Steering on the bottom, which just is a worse version of Waterfall, which is fantastic. But yeah, basically, Metal Sound is what you want to go for. And as long as this Pokemon has a move that generates 4 energy per turn, you're going to be golden with it. Because what is actually nice about this Pokemon is Drill Peck plus Hydro Cannon as a combination of charge moves. That is what makes this Pokemon. The rest you can forget. You don't need Blizzard, don't need Flash Cannon, you don't need Hydro Pump. The rest doesn't really matter. You just need Hydro Cannon plus Drill Peck. And the main reason is because it can counter mainly the weaknesses that you have on this Pokemon with fighting as well as ground, which you're going to be able to beat with your charge moveset. Electric is still your only real weakness in my opinion then. Of course, defensively you're still going to be able to like take damage from Mud Slappers, you can still take damage from counter users, don't get me wrong, but you can at least fight back. Their electric types are a little bit more difficult. But let's take a look here at the resistances, and this is ridiculous. Like, you have 3 double resistances, you have 8 normal resistances. Like, that is crazy. Like, this is just crazy here. Like, it is ridiculous on how good the typing is of Empoleon. And this is most likely also the reason why this is the only water and steel type Pokemon that has ever been created, which is kind of weird because I feel like it's not a like type combination that is very much weird or anything like this. So, I don't know. Empoleon is very special in this kind of case. Of course, Altaria is the main Pokemon you want to pair it with. Use Altaria in the lead, use Altaria in the back. Just have like Empoleon as either closer or the lead for yourself. And then have something in between. What I like to play is lead Empoleon, Florges Say Swap, Altaria in the back. That is my suggestion, because Florges has also the water type coverage. It covers the weakness of fighting, and you have coverage against basically everything there for you. Electric type still can be a bit of a pain, just generally speaking, but I feel like this is a perfect team to run. Okay, I usually try to avoid this Pokemon, but I feel like if you have the opportunity to build a Guzzlord for the Great League, I think it's so worth it. I think it's such a strong Pokemon. It has great matchups against the current meta. It has a ginormous buff recently. It got the buff with a Dragon Tail, which is never going to get like changed like this as well. If a move gets changed, it's going to be Dragon Breath, not Dragon Tail. You have Brutal Swing, which is fantastic on this Pokemon. Gives it a very cheap and fast charge move there. And then you have either Sludge Bomb, which is here suggested in order to counter the Fairy type weakness that you have on this Pokemon, or Dragon Claw in order to give you some direct damage. The thing is here, if you take a look at the damage per energy on the right side, Dragon Claw is not that much better than Brutal Swing, so like you don't even need to have this move in order to nuke opponents. They are all kind of very similar damage per energy count, so I like Sludge Bomb in the Great League because you have to use the Zoom Rods, which then you can hit for super effective damage. Quite a lot of weaknesses on this type itself, double weakness to Fairy, but also quite a lot of resistances, which is kind of cool as well, especially towards the elemental core, of course, because they are dragon type Pokemon of water, grass, the water, the grass, or fire as well, so electric, sorry. And of course you have the double resistance to the psychic type thing, which is quite rare to be fair. You saw Malamar with it, but like otherwise it's kind of rare. Suggested teammates: any kind of steel type Pokemon and any kind of poison type Pokemon. You kind of counter the weakness to fairy type Pokemon, because otherwise you're going to struggle quite a bit. And Empoleon makes sense as well because you can counter kind of some of the other weaknesses here. Actually, all of the weaknesses if you have energy. So like Empoleon makes a lot of sense in the core. Of course, flying type Pokemon can be a bit of a pain though, which are very rare though. Otherwise, Scissor makes a lot of sense because you don't have that direct fighting type weakness. And I do think that the Scissor core is the best with Guzzlord. Feraligtr kind of disappeared recently, but I still think it's worth it. It's ranked currently 69. Nice. But this Pokemon itself, it didn't get nerfed ever, really. And it was dominating the meta before. So I could think that this is going to change again towards where Feraligtr is going to be a Pokemon that's going to dominate the meta. It's mainly down to the moveset here. Because you have Shadow Claw as a fast move, and you have Hydro Cannon, which you reach kind of similar pace as the Empoleon, as well as you're going to have the Ice Beam, which is going to be a bit better coverage actually than Empoleon maybe, because you're going to be able to counter a lot of the top meta Pokemon. A lot of Pokemon are kind of weak to Ice. And then you have Crunch as well. You have the Shadow option for this Pokemon, which is also really fine. Both of them are really good. But what I have to say here is I do think that this Pokemon is going to come back eventually. I don't think that this Pokemon is going to disappear. Fully, it's still very much usable right now, by the way. Like, it's not that you can't use this Pokemon. It's a very strong Pokemon still currently. It's just not in the top meta. I do think it's coming back, though. I do think it's going to be definitely back eventually, because you have great pacing. You have a nice type with just pure water. You have a lot of damage output for this Pokemon. You have great coverage and Ice Beam and Crunch. I can't see this Pokemon disappear. And so, I would say that it's going to be definitely Pokemon I would really recommend you to give a try. You can run especially with Wigglytuff, as Wigglytuff is going to be weak to those Bastions, as well as, a lot of like those Fire-type Pokemon, which you can counter with this thing. But just generally, it's a fantastic Say-Sub, it's a fantastic lead. It can be closer as well, and so I would recommend you to definitely build still Feraligtr, even in this current meta. Drapion, like, I kind of have a lot of power Pokemon that I feel like are kind of underrated right now as well in this video. Drapion only got recently nerfed. It's still ranked 74. Actually, the non-Shadow is ranked higher, but I actually do agree here that the Shadow one is better than the non-Shadow one. Because what makes this Pokemon so different is two things. First off, you have okay stats here. Like, it's not crazy, like really not crazy. You're spammy, you're flexible, you're dynamic, you have shield pressure, you have not that much bulk, as one says here. But what you have is basically the finest Say-Sub that you can have. With Poison Sting, you have the highest energy generation kind of in the game, outside of I do think it's only outside of the Water Shuriken as well as the Lock-On, which Lock-On, of course, you only have on like Reggie and the Porygon. Kind of used move as well. But here we have Aqua Tail as a coverage move as well as Crunch. And where this matters is kind of if we take a look at the weaknesses of this Pokemon, which is only one weakness, which is ground. You have 5 resistances and you have 1 weakness in this ground. You have a Pokemon that generates a ton of energy with the fast move already and uses as a Say-Sub with Aqua Tail. And this is the thing, Aqua Tail is literally what changes everything for this Pokemon. This is why this is the best Poison Dark type Pokemon, even though there's so many available. Because of Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail allows you to just cover up the weakness to ground types, and so you basically have a Pokemon without a weakness, and that just makes for a great Say-Sub, especially in the Go Bad League meta right now. And yeah, you can pair it with any kind of those Pokemon. You can have to cover up still the weakness to ground types, because like there's Guzzlord in the meta. Guzzlord, by the way, I haven't had in either of the videos, because I do think that Mudslap is going to get nerfed eventually. I can't see that Mudslap is going to stay like this forever, so that's why I haven't done that yet. But let's see here what is going to be next. Doublade is going to be next here on the list. Doublade is absolutely a fantastic Pokemon as well. Doublade is definitely a Pokemon that I would recommend you to go ahead and try to build as well. It's only good since I think this season. This was the only season where it's now viable. And it's mainly viable because it got a fantastic moveset. Like, it's a moveset, again, moves can't be removed on Pokemon in Pokemon GO. I asked towards it before, it is against the rule set that Pokemon Company gave them, as far as I know. So, like, the moves are here to stay, and the only thing that they can do is nerf those moves. What do we have? Shadow Claw, not broken at all in the current meta. It's not really used that commonly in the current meta as well. It was at one point the strongest fast move by far. But what else do we have here? We're going to have Sacred Sword, which is the perfect coverage, and this is the main reason why this Pokemon is so broken. It's my favorite Pokemon currently to use in the current meta, I would say. I would say this is my favorite Pokemon to team build around. With Gyro Ball as a coverage move. Gyro Ball is a garbage move. Like, it's really not a great move at all. It is a better version of Iron Head, at least, which is kind of fine. Like, you're still going to do a little bit more damage there. You're going to have here, this one was your hardest hitting move. It's still not really that hard hitting. But Shadow Claw is not only a stab move. It generates energy super fast and enables you to get to those Sacred Swords in a ridiculous pacing of 5 and 4. That means that you're going to be able to outspeed most of the current meta after the second chart move, because the current threshold is kind of at 10 turns, which is like 5 fast moves of Shadow Claw. But if the second one takes 8 turns total, then you're going to be able to outspeed nearly everything. And Sacred Sword is amazing coverage. It is a really, really strong move. And then we're going to take a look here real quick at the weaknesses. We're going to see that there's a weakness to Ghost, which you have the fast move that's super effective, as well as, of course, Gyro Ball. Fire and Ground, which is not really as ideal. But of course, as a Ghost type, you also cannot hit Ray Dark as well as normal type Pokemon, which you can actually take down here with the Sacred Swords now, which is fantastic. Like, you are going to have coverage against all of those normal type Sasops, which makes this Pokemon fantastic. But also take a look at the resistances again. Yes, you have 4 weaknesses, but you have 2 triple resistances in Poison as well as normal. You have a double resistance in Bug, and then you have 9 normal resistances, which just makes the Pokemon so overpowered. That being said, Aegislash I like a lot as well. I feel like Aegislash is worth building as well for the Go Battle League, and I don't think it's going to get nerfed anytime soon, if more the opposite. But yeah, this Pokemon is fantastic, and as you're going to see here, we have suggested teammates, we have Guzzlord, we have Credilli. I like Guzzlord a lot for this Pokemon. I think it's the best kind of one. What I would recommend you to do is something like lead this Pokemon, go Furret Saysop, go Lickilicky Saysop, have Guzzlord in the back, have a Umbreon in the back, have any kind of Dark type in the back, have a Mandibuster in the back, anything. Works out super well, trust me, it's fantastic. But that's gonna be it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a like, and I will see you later for a top team video. Bye bye.